Louder too.
So we got briefed on a lot of different stuff, but one of the things, NAC has a new code of conduct that's separate from the agency's code of conduct. Basically brought about just by some, I guess, different events that have been reported. But I have a copy of it if anybody wants to look at it. But basically, just treat people like other human beings with respect. Katie Gallucci from Area 1 went. I don't know if she's here, maybe not. So she got selected to be on the brand new disaster response committee, which kind of was born out of all the response that we did post hurricanes in San Juan and kind of up and down the southeast. Tom Flannery, who's the VP at Miami Center, he's also a cop. We'll try not to hold it against him too much, but he has a lot of background in disaster response stuff. So he did a ton of coordination, finding pilots and airplanes and materials to get flown into different places, essentially as soon as those airports opened up. So he kind of put together a proposal to make something a little bit more formal. So that way they have different places where they can store equipment instead of having to scramble to buy equipment when it's needed and all that, like generators and kind of paper goods and non-perishables and stuff like that. So they solicited for people. They're trying to get people kind of spread across the U.S. For obvious reasons, but Katie got selected from here. She actually does have some disaster response background and emergency management type stuff prior to being in the FAA. She came to us from LA, so she kind of has some experience with the wildfires and stuff out there. But then also they were reaching out to people here or in Colorado when they were having the avalanches on the highways and stuff out towards Aspen. But she put on a really good briefing for the whole group about what they do and stuff like that. She brought back posters for the facility too, so you'll start seeing those around with I guess they're kind of look like the turn off, tune in type stuff, but they're for that. If you want to donate to them, you can actually do a payroll deduction, automatic payroll deduction for that. So we do use dues money for some of that stuff, but just like with other things that we pay for that we don't use dues money for, because dues money is highly regulated. So it's hard for the union to just say, your house was ruined, here's $5,000. And it should be. But so they were able to give out some money as kind of like a reimbursement for people that had kind of catastrophic events. But that was part of the reason that they formed this. Is it's much easier for the disaster response committee to just roll in and provide labor and materials and everything for any kind of work that needs to be done, or gas for fuel, or just kind of things like that. So that's why they kind of dedicated that to it. But yeah, if you want to set up a payroll deduction, anything, $1, $2, $5 a paycheck helps out a ton for those guys. And you can do that through the NACA website or ask Katie for more info on that. I think that's all I'm going to touch on there. So a lot of you, probably most of you, hopefully, were in the briefings that we had a couple weeks ago here. I just want to kind of touch on the staff in the area thing that I talked about there. It was a more management friendly, I guess, presentation there. But here, I will tell you, is 100% a game. And I wish I could have put up something that showed the kind of things that they look at when it comes to looking at numbers for shift guidelines and things like that, because they basically break it down with, they'll show each sector that you have, each position, and for each shift, within each shift, approximately how long that sector was open. So if you have a sector that's open on average 1 hour during the day shift, it's not going to necessitate a body. Obviously your full-time sectors, that's one person, this is one person, this sector's open 4 times, that's one person. But that's kind of how they look at it. And there's no set if it's open for this many hours, it counts as one person or anything like that. So we had an issue where Area 2 used to have 12 people on the day shift, swing shift, whatever it was. They wanted to drop it down 1. for this year. So they compared Area 2's numbers to Area 6 because Area 6 also has a 12-person shift, but Area 6 has every single sector open for the majority of the shift except for one, where Area 2 does not have the same numbers. But if you compare Area 2 to Area 3, it's really similar. So my argument was, well, maybe Area 6 is coming close to needing a 13th, and maybe Area 2 and 3 are on that 11 and 12 breakpoint. Of course, that's not what they wanted to look at. They just wanted to look at Area 6 does it with 12, so that's the benchmark. So throughout the negotiations, we ended up kind of giving that one back on that shift, which even the managers are unhappy about for this year. So it may or may not come back. But I just wanted to tell you guys that's kind of the data that we go against whenever we have to argue for those shift guideline numbers. Because every year they want to bring them lower, and we just kind of want to keep them where they are because we think we're in a pretty good spot. So when we have CICs on the desk who are just all about getting everything combined up to as few sectors as possible, kicking the D-sides out, getting the brake list rolling, I know everybody likes that, but it does not help anything at all. If you keep running with, one or two under numbers, sometimes that's just what you're stuck with for that shift. Like, they literally couldn't get anybody to come in for overtime, so that's just what we have to roll with. But if it's not enough people, then it shouldn't show up on the log the next day as, well, this was enough people. It should show people were working a lot, we had the D-sides open that we needed open, and maybe there's even something in the OM's log that says, hey, these are the issues we ran into this day. Area 5 was running with 10 people, and it was not enough people. They had people that went over 2 hours, or people filed ATSAPs because they needed a D-side, but they couldn't get a D-side because there was nobody there to provide it. Those are the kinds of things that we have to show so that when we have data, when they have that data that says, well, this is the position data and it doesn't really show that we need 12 people, if we can go and say, well, we had 62-hour time on position grievances that came out of these shifts when they only had this many people, or the supervisors will provide screenshots of art saying, hey, here's every sector's open. We got 3 D-sides. There's only 1 person in the break list and 2 people are getting ready to go over 2 hours. All that kind of supporting documentation can help, because then we can say, look, this is what they had when they had this many people or this many people or whatever the case may be. So I know it's not popular when you're on the desk as a CIC to, staff D-sides or keep sectors open that maybe seem like they shouldn't be open, but it really is a game to keep the staffing that we have. Any questions on anything so far? So April 25th is, I don't know what the PC name for it is. It's Take Your Kid to Work Day. It's for ages 8 to 18 is the national mandated ages, but they put together a really good kind of day thing and take the kids through different areas and have different stuff set up for them. So you'll start to see the sign up stuff for that as they roll out the planning for that. Earth Day is April 22nd, which the national office, I guess, is going to roll out something. I guess it's kind of Jen Van Roy's baby, so I don't know what it is, but expect to see some stuff on that throughout the month. What else? I don't think I have a whole lot more to talk about. Staffing, we're not picking anybody up on this round of the NCEPT. Hopefully we don't lose anybody. There's a temp soup job that closes on the 4th, so who knows where they're going to pull those people from. I don't know. Questions? Any area reps have any input or anything they want to see me talk about?
Can you talk about where you're at as far as us starting to post into the summer league schedule season with 3-person bids in a lot of areas and assignment of overtime and possibly what that looks like in conjunction with leave?
So we haven't posted any schedules yet with 3-person bids, right?
No, it's coming up.
Okay, so like within the next few weeks. I know that Area 5 has had to post some overtimes that were in conjunction with annual leave. I don't know if they've had conversations with the people that got assigned those overtimes.
Yeah.
they have and they're okay with it, or
No,
they're not?
Of course
Okay.
not.
So, and the hope there is Area 5 has 3 CPC transfers that are training on the floor there, and the hope is that at least one of them will get 2 positions by the time that pay period actually hits, so that we can just get rid of the need for those overtimes. But they did look at using supervisors for staffing, because I think you guys started out with like 6 or 8 shifts that were needed that were going to have to be assigned to those people. They were able to get it down to 3 by using other resources, but those 3, it was, I mean, it is what it is. We can't, the operation has to come first, so, that overtime has to be assigned. It's not, at some of the smaller facilities, we hear questions about, like, well, we have 4 leave slots per day, and now they want to assign us overtime on our RDOs in conjunction with our annual leave. And I'm like, okay, well, if you have 4 people on leave and 3 people that need overtime, if those people don't get overtime, how many people does that staff the facility with? And they're like, well, 2.
But if the operation comes first, I mean, they're not putting the operation first because those people aren't going to show up for their overtimes if they're bid leave and they're going to be out of town.
Well,
so now they're creating the false.
Maybe. If there's, so Article 38, Section 4, I think, talks about if personal circumstances prohibit you from working that shift. So if you have a week of leave and you bid it and you have, plane tickets or, whatever you can show, like, hey, I'm not going to be here for this, then make sure you show that to your supervisor. That should come to me and the ATM's level to look at. Because the kind of the caveat there is it's if the agency determines that personal circumstances prohibit. So I didn't want it to be, 12 different supervisors coming up with 12 different answers, and what works for you doesn't work for her and all that kind of stuff. So it should be just Becky and I that are looking at those to determine if those personal circumstances prohibit. I mean, if you're just like I want to be in town, I just don't want to work. Sorry.
Is that a factor that you know of yet with these first 3?
Not yet. I mean, I don't. It's in the
They haven't
it's in the
come to me
pay period
yet.
that was just published. Right?
We're hoping that we can avoid the situation, but if not, then because we're already talking about moving another OS to alleviate one of them, so we should be able to get ourselves down to 2. But we'll see.
And that's, I mean, if you hear, the scheduler should know about it when it happens, but sometimes it gets missed when you have leave for the last week of a pay period, and then when they go to start publishing that next pay period, they just see RDOs and then schedule. So, I mean, it's something that should be caught, but sometimes it's not. So make sure that, if you hear of if it happens to anybody, make sure they let somebody know so it gets to our level, because it may be something just as easy as we didn't see that they were on leave and we can just change it. But if it needs to go to a higher level, we can make sure that it at least gets looked at. Anything else? Vince, you got that treasurer's report?
Thank Jason for that, but
So it is the taxes might not. It's probably a pretty transparent deal for most people, but usually getting the taxes and the end of year financial stuff put together is like, I don't know, like 3 years ago it was like a 2-week process. Last year it probably took 2 or 3 days, and Jason has kind of been helping out with the treasurers, trying to get a little bit more automated. Like you get the updated Quicken, so it links with the bank account better. And so this year it took like
Hour and a half.
Yeah, hour and a half. So kudos to those guys. Makes me breathe easier because I'm the one that goes to jail for fraud.
oh, that part's still in play.
when they find it. But with that, Vince has a super easy way to generate some financial reports that he did not do for this meeting, but he will for any future meetings. But we do. I mean, our kind of goal is to keep one dues payment, dues rebate in savings. So a dues rebate check, they come quarterly. We get back from the national office 10% of what they collect from our facility. So our annual budget is right around $40,000. so depending on how many paychecks or how many pay periods we're in that, the dues kind of fluctuate. But I think we keep like 12,000 as our goal. I think we probably have close to $30,000 in savings right now.
Just over 24 right now.
Okay, 24.
Because the next one's gonna go, we think, straight to savings because the quarter will hit and we doubles.
Perfect. So from that, I mean, that was kind of where a lot of the equipment came for the internet stuff. Jason's going to be wrapping that up. He's had some problems with the schedule with the tech ops guy, and him is like completely opposite. So, but basically the end goal with that is to get the Wi-Fi kind of repeated so you can get it on like the whole walking track and the parking lots in between, and then also hopefully in the cafeteria. I don't.
Nope.
In the dungeon, I don't
Hey,
know.
look,
It's possible. I don't know. He's got to talk to Brett and see where they're going to run the
When we
lines.
get into running the wires, when we get to that stage, then we'll expand it as much as we can. So
Because the thing that we have to look at is we want to get it in as many places as we can, women's lounge, reading room, wherever, but we also can't have to kind of be careful with how far that signal encroaches on the control room itself. That's the issue we run into.
So we still give it like a 2 to 3 month possibly timeline or
then I'm
more.
hoping I've set aside a lot of time this month to work on it, so I'll have a better timeline by the end of the month. So, and then Matt Jackson said he'd help me out, and I got a couple other people that said they'd help too. So we have most of the planning done at this point. So
Next meeting we'll have in one of the conference rooms upstairs, so be a little bit better seating.
You wanna talk
Arrangement.
about Alex taking over everything?
Oh, at the regional level, yeah. So Eddie, the RVP, who kind of just started his term in September, had some personal things he had to deal with, so he had to step aside. The question was, well, how come it's not you because you're the ARVP? It's not. So the ARVP is appointed and not elected, so it's not an automatic succession to that level. And so, we had some conversations and decided Alex is the fact rep of Seattle Center. He's been on Drug and Alcohol Committee, the EAP committee. He's been like kind of active legislatively for a long time also. And so the decision was made for him to take the RVP spot and then for me just to kind of stay where I am, which I'm totally fine with because that position can be soul crushing, I guess, for lack of a better term. They travel a ton, but that's probably the easiest thing what they do. They all have to be in charge of various committees and everything, and anytime something happens on that committee, it's their fault and they have to fix it. And but yeah, so he's a new RVP. I have no issues with him. He and I are good friends. He had the option to appoint another ARVP if he wanted to, but he decided to keep me on. If they'd picked anybody else in the region besides him, maybe one other person, I probably would have just told them to pick another ARVP, but we're still in a good spot. I mean, Eddie's obviously, a ton of experience and knowledge that we lose there, but it's not like he's going anywhere. He's still going to be around. He didn't bid a supervisor job. It wasn't because of, I've heard a lot of things. That he was bidding a soup job, that he misappropriated union funds, just lots of different things, but it's not that. It's just, he says some things he's got to step away and take care of, so. All right. Make sure you shake Pat Casey's hand on the way out. Get his contact info and start bugging him with everything. And yeah, just let any one of us know if there's something that pops up that you didn't see covered here that you have questions about, and we'll get you the answers.